the part of the story we didn't get to in our parasha. Cain spoke to his brother Abel. ... When they were in the field, Cain set upon his brother Abel and killed him. The outlines of the story, I hope, are familiar to us. Two brothers are born to Adam and Eve, the older Cain, a farmer, and the younger Abel, a shepherd. They both bring sacrifices to God. Cain brings some fruit to sacrifice, and Abel brings the best of the firstborn of his flock. God accepts Abel's offer and not Cain's. God says to Cain, if you do right, there is uplift. But if you do not, sin crouches at the door. It urges you, yet you can be its master. With two yuds were human beings created, both with the drive to do good and evil. And you, Cain, you must make a choice. And then after hearing these words from God, Cain spoke to his brother Abel. Ellipsis, pause. The text of their conversation is not in our Sefer Torah. What was it that was said? What transpired in that field? What words were shared? Words that turned to violence. Brother turned against brother for the first time. What is it? The root of all brotherly conflict, Cain against Abel. My teacher, the Montreal Jewish teacher, Professor Jason Kelman, holds that in the rabbinic teaching on this verse, we find the basis for the human condition. The drives that the rabbis found to motivate us all, both of the yetzers, the drive to do good and the drive to do evil. Here is the Midrash, which he refers to, which is contained in the early collection called Bereshit Rabbah. Vayomer Cain el Hevel Achiv, and Cain spoke unto his brother Abel. ... The rabbis asked, about what did they quarrel? Come, they said, there's two of us. Who owns what? Let us divide the world so we know whose stuff is whose. And Cain, the farmer, took the land, and Abel, the shepherd, took everything which was above the land, everything which was movable. Cain then turned to his brother and said, the land you're standing on is mine. Get off of it. Abel replied, the clothes you're wearing are mine. Strip. Cain said, start flying then. And out of this quarrel, Cain rose up against his brother Abel. Property, possessions, wealth, the have and the have-nots, the fair distribution of the world we're born into. This is the first reason the rabbis give. Rabbi Yoshua of Sichnin said in Rabbi Levi's name, that's not what the fight was about. But what was it they quarreled over? What was their fight over? One said, when the temple is built, it's going to be built in my half of the world. And the other said, no, when the temple is built, when God builds a temple, It should be built in my part of the world, because what does it mean that they fought in the field? The field must refer to the Temple Mount. And out of this argument over who is going to have the biggest religious honor, Cain rose up against his brother Abel. So our second explanation from the rabbis: what is the root of human argument? Who gets religious honors? And finally, lust. Yehuda bar Ami said their quarrel was about the first Eve. Rabbi Abayu said the first Eve had returned to dust. Maybe it was about their twin sister born with Abel, that they each wanted her. The one claimed, "She is mine because I am the firstborn." And Abel replied, "She was born with me. She's mine." Property and wealth, religious honor, and lust. We're not going to get into the specifics of the details of lust. One, it does refer to a first Eve, often called Lilith, which is the name of the feminist Jewish magazine, which is a midrash about strong women in the world, and then this strange section about a twin, which is better to gloss over in the reading of our text. But property, honor, and lust. First, property and wealth. When we are born into this world, what is it that we have a natural right to? What is our inheritance? What is fair? These are things that we struggle with as children, growing up in our homes, as we have certain things which are ours, certain things which are the property of the household. And these things don't change as we grow older. What is it that each human being is entitled to in the world? Is it, we debate, a minimum wage, a living income, a minimum basic income? Is it the right to work and to be supported by society if we are unable? Is it the ability to change jobs, to have freedom to choose what it is we will do? These are things, some of which seem common sense to us, but all of which were not true to everyone 60 years ago in Canada, and still are not true for many in the world today. It was the text in this parashah, in Bereshit, which lent religious support to unions in the drive to limit the work week to 6 days. Because, of course, 5 days would be sinful, that would be not working enough. That God only rested on 1 day of creation, right? Genesis is the keystone text for community building and for constantly having us ask the question of what kind of community we want all children of this earth to be able to have. What kind of community do we want all children of our country, of our province, of our city, to be theirs by right of their existence, by right of their creation? We are no longer in Eden, but we want to elevate ourselves above the animals of the field, above Cain and Abel, not possessing more, but as siblings in the eyes of God, being our brothers and sisters' keepers. Religious honors. Before our service today, our Gabbai Joan Garson said to me, one of the hardest things is to give out honors in the synagogue. We recently had our worship committee meeting where We looked through the High Holy Day system and the distribution of honors. Was it fair the way honors were distributed? This High Holy Day is in our congregation, where we discuss and debate and know that it is one of the most rewarding things and important things we do as a community, to raise up those who have achieved honors, to say to those that come up for an aliyah that you deserve the honor which you have taken today, that the community raises you up as you come up to the bima as someone who will continue on the mitzvot and embodies the values of our community. There's nothing more precious that we can do as a sacred community than honor those who are deserving. And you can read in many places where there are those who deserve honors who are not given them. In Rabbi Marmer's recent article with CJN, he speaks about in Israel how Reform and conservative Jews are not given the honors reserved for Jews in that country. How when he went for a medical procedure recently, the top of his referral sheet said, Rabbi Marmer, Reform Rabbi, which he asked, what does this have to do with my health in this country? But there are, of course, rays of light and hope in our world. We hosted the Orthodox Partnership Minyan here at Holy Blossom Temple for the second day of their Chag, of which we only celebrated one day. The Parliament of World Religions is coming in the beginning of November here to Toronto, and our friends and colleagues are in charge of organizing it. Danny Richmond, the leadership of the Islamic Noor Cultural Center that we've done joint programming with, coming together, sharing the honors. We can share honor when we don't feel defensive. And we must try to make a tikkun here by celebrating with others in their happy occasions, being zealous for honors, but also stepping back to make space, yutzim soon, so others can come up and take honors and be honored as well. And third, lust. Note Ra in the Midrash. I will have her. I will take her. I will grab her. It is relevant to note this morning, of course, that the Nobel Peace Prize was awarded to two individuals who have been working to stop sexual violence in our world, controlling bodies as an act of war, as an act of power. And of course, there's been a conversation in our North American life asking, is boys acting like boys a rite of passage that is irrelevant to the type of people that they are now? To which, of course, we respond with no. And we work as a society, as we work with our students here at Holy Blossom Temple, to educate about consent, about building a society where all are treated equally, where we're able to move beyond lust, to see the humanity of those that are facing us. And this Yom Kippur, I mentioned the first female rabbi, Rabbi Regina Yones, whose yahrzeit it is today. On Shabbat Bereshit, she was sent to the gas chambers in Auschwitz. She was ordained in Berlin as a rabbi for the Berlin Jewish community, not just As a Reform rabbi, she herself was entrenched in the Shulchan Aruch and in Jewish law as general Jewish law. Rabbi Leo Beck told her to donate her papers, we think, before she was sent off to Auschwitz. But he never publicly spoke of her after the war. And on this Shabbat, her yahrzeit, we read these words of her teaching. She taught, "I hope a time will come for all of us in which there will be no more questions on the subject of women. For as long as there are questions, something is wrong. But if I must say what drove me as a woman to become a rabbi, two elements come to mind: my belief in the godly calling and my love for people. God has placed abilities and callings in our hearts, without regard to gender. Thus, each of us has the duty, whether man or woman, to realize those gifts God has given. If you look at things this way, one takes woman and man for what they are, human beings. Lust, not just about those that we desire, male or female, but about our relationships with others in general. When we look at others, are we looking with an eye towards our own desire, or are we seeing them as human beings, as partners in creation, as beings created in the image of God, B'Tselem Elohim? How do we move past the drive for more property, more honor, and for more physical satiation? We must master our own impulses. We must fight for right. Our texts are not aesthetic, saying that we should only choose one yetzer, that we should only move beyond these things, but rather that we must pursue them correctly. We must pursue property for our family, for our community, for our country, to make sure that Canada has enough, to make sure our family has enough, to make sure that humanity has enough. But we must do it with an eye towards what is right. The rabbi, of course, says we should pursue religious honors. We should try to be honored by our community, have aliyot, to take upon us the mitzvot, to have mitzvah honors in our community. But we do it with respect, and looking always to see who else can we bring with us, who else can we also honor. And we, of course, pursue relationships, but we do it with an eye towards respect. How can we pursue relationships that are not fleeting, that build family? This is the fix, the tikkun, for Cain and Abel. In the words of Regina Jonas, thus each of us has the duty, whether man or woman, to realize these gifts God has given. Judaism is not a religion of one yetzer versus the other to the point of defeat. We know our human wants, and we must also let our respect for others, made in the image of God, temper our drives. This ability is our gift. This ability is our challenge. Each of us has the duty, whether man or woman, to realize those gifts that God has given. Shabbat Shalom.